Hello
Hi.
and welcome back to Andy's Library. Katelyn is with me. We are continuing to try and solve After the Funeral. Oh, are there more tabs there?
I may have put in a couple more tabs. I can't remember. Yeah, so this is something that I wanted to bring up in general about the last six chapters is I wasn't picking up many more clues.
I agree. I was not picking up many more clues either.
And like maybe that's just because we don't know, where things are going. So things that are clues we're not realizing are clues.
True.
But some of the chapters after I read that, I was like, well, I'm not really sure what new information we got.
Yeah. I this well the one chapter where the man goes through all of the people and their alibis and essentially blows up all of their alibis.
Yeah,
And then Poirot says, okay, so I can't eliminate anyone.
right.
And then there's a part where, like, just as a recap from last week, we're thinking that Cora is an imposter.
Yeah, and I think I still think that.
I do too. And I think I went back and I did a little rereading, and Helen is the one that was standing by the table and thinking that she remembered something didn't seem right. And
Hmm.
Poirot really pushes her on that. And he keeps saying, was it someone? Was it an expression? And then so I went back to like the first few chapters and reread, and Helen is going back in her mind, like this is back in like chapter 3 or whatever, and she says that she noticed Cora had been sitting by the malachite table, and that is when she has this thought, like in earlier chap or later chapters, I'm sorry, is when she has that thought, something's not right. So I feel that is the clue that Cora is an imposter. So I think you're right.
Is the malachite table?
That green malachite table is where Helen remembers Cora standing before they went to the church.
I'm so I remember that you had brought up the wax flowers in one of our videos, and it seems like those two things go hand in hand, like the wax flowers that are sitting on the malachite table.
Mm-hmm.
And so, since you said that, as I was reading these last chapters, I noticed that it kept being brought up.
Yes, you're right. Well, Helen is the one that's cutting the fresh flowers and then she replaces the wax flowers.
Yeah, and then she like
And
breaks the vase.
yes,
And then it's mentioned at other times too. And I'm just like really confused like what it means. But you think it means something
I think
about
it
Cora
might
being an imposter.
I think it might just be Helen. It might just be the clue that Helen notices there's something wrong. When she notices something's wrong, she's thinking Cora, because Cora was the one standing looking at the flowers in
I see what you're
Helen's
saying.
mind.
Like it's an association for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Well, also about Helen, like remembering that moment when like Poirot is questioning her, like, did something seem wrong? I was rereading and I don't know if I could find it quickly right now, but she says something like he asked like what was off? Was it like the look, somebody's expression after she said that? And she said, I don't know, we were all looking at Cora. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like she saw something that seemed off to her, and she just said, but she was looking at Cora. So it's like, so Cora is what seemed off.
mhm, yes, I mean, I really think you hit it. I really do think Cora's an imposter. So then I started thinking, okay, if she's an imposter, that whole storyline that Richard went and visited all of everyone. He
Mhm.
visited Timothy, and then he visited the nieces and nephews. They all seem, well, especially Susan, seemed surprised that he visited Cora, which
Yeah.
makes me think he didn't visit Cora. Like there's no second voice saying that he visited Cora other than Miss Gilchrist.
Yes. Yeah. And so
So,
I'm also suspicious of Miss Gilchrist
mhm,
and what
yeah,
her involvement in this whole thing is. And I can't like really piece it together. It's just different things. Like, one, I feel like she comes up in every single chapter, even if she's not in the chapter, they will talk about her, which
yeah,
is weird because she's doesn't seem like she would be a significant piece of the puzzle. She was just this woman who happened to do some work for Cora. So it's weird that she comes up so often and there's so much focus on her. And then
mhm,
at one point, I made a note of this that I forget who says this, but somebody says that there are so many women who are like Miss Gilchrist. And I remember at one point, I think it was Mr. Entwistle, like talking about how he could totally like picture her whole tea shop thing. Like he's seen so many of those women with tea shops to the point that it's almost seeming like she has this very cookie cutter personality,
mhm,
almost like it's not real, like she's put it on and she is
yeah,
pretending to be something that she's not.
yeah,
So it's like she also an imposter that somehow plays into the situation.
right. And so whoever played the part of Cora, we're assuming is the person that was murdered in the cottage.
I think so.
So I think the fact that I think Miss Gilchrist killed the woman in the cottage with a hatchet, so you can't tell that that's not Cora.
Um, so so the reason that we think the woman who was murdered is the same woman that was at the funeral is because Mr. Entwistle identified her, correct?
Yes,
I
but
wonder if
barely, because all he saw was her bloody fringe, which I think means her bangs, right?
I think so. So like I wonder
So
like was it even the same person?
true, it could be someone
But I
different.
don't
That's true. That's true. So the real Cora could have been murdered by Miss Gilchrist, and the imposter is someone that's not even, a character yet.
but I feel like the imposter was whoever was at the funeral because
Mhm.
of how Helen says something seemed off.
Yes, I agree. So
This is
I do think Cora might be gone. Like there might not be Cora anymore. Like
right.
that whoever, like these two women that live together, Miss Gilchrist and this other woman, she could be the imposter, or it could be, um, someone went to the funeral as an imposter and then they killed Cora with a hatchet, so you would never know that the woman that was at the funeral wasn't really Cora.
Right.
But I like
It's
the fact that you've got that theme of all these women are described as indiscriminate, um, almost interchangeable. I mean, I think at one point the line is even like she had that same look a lot of women in their 50s had, where you just can't tell them apart or whatever. So that whole theme of these women being interchangeable, I think really points to that and then when Susan because Susan comes and visits, so we know Miss Gilchrist was not the imposter at the funeral because Susan would have known. And so when Susan says to Gregory, well, you know who killed her, right? I feel like Susan is on to Miss Gilchrist. And maybe that's why she set up Miss Gilchrist to go with Timothy and Maud, thinking, she can keep maybe murdering her way through the family.
Like Susan wants her to, so that she can get more of the fortune.
Yeah, because
I
they
could
are
see
really
that.
clear that Susan's very much a planner. Like they keep
Yeah.
making that comment.
Yeah, and like when people there were certain members of the family who, when they heard that Susan had sent Miss Gilchrist to work for Timothy, is that his name?
Yeah,
They were like, "What?" Like they acted like, "What? Why'd she do that?" And like I just don't understand why they're having that reaction.
yeah,
Yeah, this
yeah.
is so weird.
I think Susan is plotting in the background.
I think that makes sense.
And I don't know if she's the murderer.
Huh.
I mean, maybe, but I just feel like Miss Gilchrist, I just feel like there's something there as far as like, I don't think Richard really visited Cora. So I think Miss Gilchrist is somehow involved in the whole plot.
Yeah. Do you think that Miss Gilchrist poisoned herself with that cake?
Yes, do you?
I was thinking that. Like it could have been a way for her to get like the heat off of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or Susan did it. I mean, but Susan could have easily done it too. Like Susan could have killed um the Cora imposter and then realized um I don't know, but the whole thing with the weird jewelry that was grabbed and thrown out, like Susan wouldn't have done that because that's just too sloppy. That doesn't make any sense. That seems more like a Miss Gilchrist thing to have done.
Yeah, like Susan's very smart.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's so like frustrating because like I feel like we have these pieces of it and it's just not clicking the way I want it to click. Like I want to
Yeah.
have like that like revelation, like, oh, this is why, this is how it all works together. And I just
Yeah.
like I want to be Agatha Christie so bad and figure it out. And it's just like I'm at a loss right now.
Well, and I kind of want to go back and reread before we do the last couple chapters because I think
Like, are
what
you
our
gonna reread everything?
possibly, I mean, until because what our next installment is 18 through 24. Is that right?
Or is it 18 through 23?
Maybe it's 18 through 23.
Because are there 24 chapters total?
Are there
I'm so
24?
nervous to look. I don't want to be
Oh, there's
spoiled by it.
25.
Oh, okay.
But maybe we should stop before 24 just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do that.
All right. Um, okay, so essentially we're still where we were. We think Cora's an imposter. We don't know much more than that. I think Susan's involved, but I think she just saw an opportunity and grabbed it.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I
and one
think,
more thing. Timothy was missing medication. And what was the thing about everybody's like shocked that Richard died, like he seemed to be getting better. So maybe there's a week period that he wasn't being poisoned. So I don't know, like we're back to like, okay, who was actually poisoning him?
do you think Timothy had something to do with it?
No, I think Gregory had something to do with that.
Wait a second.
I got a lot of
Why am
loose
I
wire, a lot
blanking who Gregory is?
of Susan's husband,
Okay.
the chemist. I've got all these like loose like theories, but none of them are coming together.
Well, the one thing we had says like George is so suspicious because of his motive. He lied. And I was like, everybody lied about their motive.
Yeah. It's just that
Why?
his seemed like he prepared his ahead of time.
Uh, it definitely seems like everybody in this family has something to hide.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're so close. I feel like we're missing it.
Yeah, I feel like when we figure it out, we're gonna be like, oh, well, we should have realized. We were so
Yeah.
close.
I feel like we're gonna be like, we should still get credit for that, right?
Yeah. Uh,
All right. So next time, we are reading chapters 18 through 23.
23.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And feel free to put your guesses in the comments below or poke holes in our theories.
Yeah. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
All right, that's right.
See ya.